Okay, and we'll go ahead and get started with our luncheon speaker. I'm Misty Creel, the Director of Pickens County DHR, and we have with us today Ms. Valencia Curry with the Department of Human Resources. She's been with the Department of Human Resources for 23 years. She holds a bachelor's degree in social work and a master's degree in counseling. A native of Birmingham, Ms. Curry began her social work career with Jefferson County. She's been now with the state office for 15 years. She began as a consultant with the Office of Child Welfare Consultation and is currently the program manager with the Office of Foster Care and Adoptions. Valencia is committed to doing her part to help the children of Alabama be all that they were created to be. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Valencia Curry.
Well, good afternoon. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here. I thank the Summit Committee for submitting my name to be a speaker today. You think I need that? Okay. I have learned so much, and just thank you all for doing this. It's been awesome. I am reminded in my last session that I am a hope dealer. Isn't that cool? I'm a hope dealer. So I'm excited to know that. As Misty has already told you, I supervise the Office of Foster Care and Adoption Placements for the state of Alabama. And we're doing a lot of good things with DHR, at DHR right now. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what we've got going and definitely talk about the need for foster homes and let you all know a little bit about some of the children that we serve at DHR. Okay. Uh-oh. Do I need to just, yes. Yes, it is. She saved it. Thank you. Great. So I've included a few things on today's lunch menu as well. I want to let you know of the number of children we have in care right now. And when I spoke with our data management person as of April the 11th, 2018, the state of Alabama has 6,301 children in foster care. And we currently have 2,049 licensed foster homes and 702 therapeutic homes. Now, I know social workers love math, and I think if you do the math, you know that there are a lot of more children that need homes, from 6,000 down to only less than 3,000 homes. So there's definitely a big need for foster homes. And we understand and recognize that everybody can't be a foster parent, but everybody can help a foster child in some way. So we're really fostering that idea and looking for different ways that we can see the public, let them know the needs of the children. My office is responsible for approving therapeutic foster care for children 5 and under. And I don't need to tell you that a lot of children that go into traditional homes sometimes are not there very long because of behaviors that you all know about, that you've heard about today and you know about in your own practice. The department, I want to remind you about our TIPS training, trauma-informed partnering for safety and permanence. TIPS has taken the place of GPS, and a lot of good information is coming out of that training. We still have Deciding Together as well for foster parents that can't do the TIPS one-on-one. In 2016, we had Reasonable and Prudent Parent Standard, and I put on there that that was a game changer because a lot of foster parents, when Congress passed Reasonable and Prudent Parenting, a lot of the things that foster parents were not able to do before this bill passed, they're now able to do. It's basically children being treated as normal as possible, being allowed to spend the night with their classmates, being allowed to do fun things, be involved in extracurricular activities. It's just really been good. Have you all heard about RPPS? Yes? No? Okay, well, great. I'm glad that I was able to, yes, Buddy and Martha, they trained it with us. RPPS is really, really big, reasonable and prudent parent standard. And again, it's for our children to be treated as normal as possible. And it's really been really good for our foster children. I'm gonna talk a few seconds about kids and their suitcases. And this is from the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, which is really, really good. And Caring and Loving Through the Trauma. I have a special treat for you today, where sometimes we read and we research and we see the numbers and we read the reports, but I have a special guest today that's gonna tell you a little bit about loving a child through the trauma, and that love goes on and on. And these are our little people that's counting on you. For whatever way, these little people are saying, we're counting on you. So I want you to just look at that and just lock eyes with one of those little cuties for a minute and just know they're counting on you. Whatever way that you can assist, they're counting on you. For school supplies, for tutoring, for mentoring. We have so many foster children that when I go around the state tell me, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a police officer. And we're trying to start a mentoring program where we are matching these children with people that's in those professions. They're counting on you. A lot of them want to be social workers. Y'all know that. All right. So again, this was when as of 3/31/18, it was 6,280. But remember, yesterday's number was 6,301. So just from March 31st until April 11th, we've had more children into care. Just something to think about. So from the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, I know somebody knows about that. I was so excited that you were going to be here. This invisible suitcase was something that was really, really important to me when I began trying to learn more about trauma. And this stuck with me with one of the series that we did here at the University of Alabama after Hurricane Katrina. And they talked about this invisible suitcase, and that has resonated with me all those years. It talks about how children come to our homes, foster parents, because I'm also a foster parent, come to your home with some goods, some physical things, but they also come with invisible suitcase. Just think about that. And it talks about that invisible suitcase is filled with all of these beliefs about themselves that other people have told them, other school teachers, other social workers. And you know, I know it's kind of taboo to say that some school teachers and some social workers and some providers, you know, haven't been the very best of encouragers for some of our children, but that's reality. It happens. One not so good social worker sneaks in there every now and then. And those things that those people have told them, you're gonna be just like your mama. I had your mama case, you know? I had your grandmama case, and now look at you, you back. So those things that they've heard about themselves filled in this invisible suitcase. So all of those beliefs about themselves, they've brought to your home, they've brought to your office. Not just to foster homes, they've brought to your office as you try to do a session with them. And they've shut down, and it's taken months and months to build rapport because of that invisible suitcase that came into the office with them. So this is something I want you all to remember. You did not create the suitcase, and the beliefs are not personally about you, but understanding its contents is critical to you helping the child to overcome the effects of trauma. This was just so important for me because as a social worker, I sometimes did take things kind of personal. I'm like, but I'm so nice. I'm the social worker that takes them to McDonald's after court. Hello, they're supposed to like me. I didn't just take them back to the foster home. They didn't care about that. You know, these beliefs that they had, we sometimes, sometimes take it a little personal. But what's going on with these children, we have to realize we have to love them through it. And we're going to see an example of loving them through it in a few minutes. So we know that children do this reenactment thing. And this talks a little bit about why they do it. I'm not going to read that to you. You all know a lot of this. But I just wanted to leave with you today that children develop the context in relationships. Those relationships are very important. I was at a conference earlier this week, and the presenter was talking about how children kind of live what they learn. They learn what they live, both of those. And what they are telling themselves, if we begin to tell ourselves something different, then that will help them to kind of tell themselves a little something different. Sort of rewiring things, and we've heard a lot about that today. Okay? So I want you to meet Stacy. I met Stacy, as I told you, I supervise the worker that approves TFC for children 5 and under. And a couple of years ago, I was asked to pull a stakeholder group together for the department to meet some of the critical needs of our children that were coming into care and were going straight into TFC. We wanted to see what the needs were. A lot of the children that were in traditional homes, foster parents just kind of felt that they didn't have what they needed to meet the children's needs. So this stakeholder group was developed, and Martha Hooper introduced me to Stacy Johnson. And when I heard Stacy's story, it was something that I'll never forget. And so I want to now introduce Stacy. Stacy, would you come up? You can use a clip. Okay.
Valencia said I could use the clicker. I'm so excited. I do want to warn everyone in here, I'm going to be sharing stories of my daughter who was horrendously abused by her stepfather and her mother. So if there's anyone in here that feels like they shouldn't see pictures or hear some graphic details, please, now's the time for you to head out, okay? Like she said, my name is Stacy Johnson. I am a Coleman County foster parent, and I'm also by profession a registered nurse. My husband owns a compounding pharmacy, and I hit 40 and something happened to me. I was like, do I get a convertible or a baby? And we wrestled with that. I drove convertibles, and I said, hey, I want a special needs baby. So that's how we got started with foster care. And Emma was our first adoption through foster care, and now she's almost 4 years old. So, you know, as we travel our lives, there are dates that are always etched into our minds. And I always say that my babies have God stories, and Aiden and Kaya truly have a God story. One date that is completely etched in my mind is July 20th, 2015. I'm not a news watcher, guys. I don't watch the news. It's depressing, isn't it? I mean, there's nothing on the news good. I was cooking dinner that night, and a news report came on, and it was talking about a Coleman County, horrible Coleman County child abuse case. I sat down and I listened to it, and they were talking about this 4-year-old child, and on the news it was a boy, a 4-year-old little boy who was tied to a toilet, who was shot with BBs, who was cut, burned, just horrifically abused. And it caught my attention, and I could not turn away from the news. That night my husband came in, and I'm a hospice director by trade, so I love morbid stories, y'all. That's how I function. That's what I talk about. My husband comes in, and I'm starting to tell him about what I saw on the news, and I couldn't get him off my mind. We prayed for those children that night, and my husband's like, you've got to get them off your mind. They're probably with family. They're probably with another foster home. Get it off your mind. I tried. I couldn't. So every night we prayed for these children. July 23rd came, which was 3 days later, and I was going to be selfish. I was headed to the beach, guys. I wanted a break. I was going to spend one night at the beach, refresh, and come back and do my thing. And I got a call from Coleman DHR. I saw the number, and I went, oh, my God. And I kind of silenced it. And then I called them back, and they said, Stacy, we've got these 2 children. that need a nurse, and would you be interested? And I said, no, not now. Hung up the phone, called my husband, told him the story, and he said, Stacy, call them back. Something's telling me to call them back. And that's totally not like him. I'm the one who says, yes, we'll take them. It's going to be so much fun. And he's like, no. So I called DHR back, and they start talking, and they said, Stacy, it's a 4-year-old little girl. She was tied to a toilet. She was shot with BBs. And I said, oh, my God, I'm coming to get her. So I always tell everybody, and I'm sorry, I always tell everybody that I was always meant to be Aiden's mother. From the moment of the newscast, I was meant to be her mother. We went to DHR, picked her up, and if you guys have ever witnessed, the newscast that you see where an Ethiopian child is starved, everybody's seen those, right? That was my daughter. She was completely malnourished. When I walked into the DHR office, she had a blank look on her face. She was so sad. She was so scared. There were bruises, there were cuts, there were burns. It was horrific. I have been a nurse since 1995. Never seen anything like it. I pick Aiden up that night. We're heading home, and I thought, the worker said something like she didn't know what a birthday cake was. Never had a birthday. And I went, oh, good Lord, we're going to Walmart. So we did. We went to Walmart. We got 4 cakes for all of her birthdays. I told them on the way in, I said, we're going to get toys. You get to pick them out. We're going to have a big birthday party. And Aiden looked at me and she said, can we just get them for my sisters and brothers? I don't need anything. Oh, yeah, you do. So that's the story of Aiden. She's got a great heart. She's a wonderful child, but trauma does bad things to little girls, really bad things. Aiden's injuries when she was brought to the hospital, I'm just going to kind of go over them with you. She had a broken pelvis. She had 3 broken ribs. She had BBs lodged in her buttocks, 2 in her pelvis. She had healing rib fractures. She had cigarette burns all over her body. She had black eyes. She had abrasions to her chest, arms, back, legs, and was severely malnourished. Middle button. And again, the day after, oh, sorry, I don't know how to go back. How do I go back? Okay, the day after we got Aiden, we went to the beach. It's okay. Okay, that's Aiden. That's 2 days after we got Aiden, we decided we would go to Disney. I mean, what do? You get a new placement and you go to Disney, right? So that is her, and I carried a letter with me for the first 3 months just so people would know that she's an abused child and I'm a foster mother. But the sad thing, as I was preparing for this, I remember no one ever approached us. No one ever called if I saw a child like that, I think I'd call somebody. But this is my daughter's stomach. That was one day after she was placed in my home. That is a burn to her foot. There are so many other injuries that I could show you, but that's all I feel like my heart's leading me to show you. When Aiden came for the first 2 weeks, it was a complete honeymoon phase. It was awesome. I thought, this really didn't affect her. She's an awesome child. None of this has affected her at all. And then as Valencia refers to the suitcase, things started happening. We got a meeting with a therapist in Coleman County that the caseworker set us up with, and we go in to the therapist, and the therapist looks at me and she said, Ms. Johnson, I really don't know where to start with this child. She's had so much trauma, I don't know what to do. So as a mother, I get my purse up and I said, thank you so much for your time, we're leaving. DHR followed me out and said, you can't do that. And I said, yes, I can. I said, if you were going to a doctor's appointment and someone told you they do not know what to do for your child, you would leave, right? So we left, and Martha Hooper came in the picture, my little advocate right there. I called her and I said, you've got to help me. She's got to have help. Where do we go? Guys, I'm going to tell you, the key to a child with trauma is a therapist and support system. Without my support system and without Aiden's therapist, I don't know that I would be standing up here talking about my daughter right now. We had an amazing therapist, and the first time we went in to see her, I was crying and squalling and telling her, right before we went, let me just tell you some of the triggers. The night before we went to the therapist, I was gonna light a candle in my kitchen. I'd done it 100 million times, and I got the lighter to light it, and when Aiden saw the lighter, she stood just straight. And that's what Aiden does when she gets her triggers. She gets very quiet, she gets stoic, and she stares. And that's what was happening. And I kind of looked and I thought, what's happening? And I lit the candle, and then the violence occurred. She cleared our table, she cleared my kitchen counter, she cleared everything. Screaming, I sat down on the floor and I held her and I was crying and I was like, you are so safe. You're okay. You're fine. I'm here. Everything's fine. So there's those triggers that happen. So when I went into her therapist, I always tell Raina, which, God, I love her. I always tell her that she said the most powerful thing to me that anyone has ever said to me in my life. She looked at me and said, you cannot love this child through her trauma. That was powerful because that's what I was attempting to do. I was trying to love my child through her trauma. I wasn't giving her boundaries. I was telling her, I'm so sorry you were hurt. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But Aiden needed to know, yes, you are hurt. You are hurt and your life has been changed, but you are loved and we can't allow this behavior. So that was a complete turning point for me. When Aiden the first night, I need to back up. The first night Aiden came to us, my husband is about a 340-pound, 6'4". Where's my Auburn boy? There he is. There you go. Played for Auburn. He was a right tackle. I told him he had to stand up and scream or something. But big boy. And when Aiden's clothes were removed from her the first night for a bath, my big 350, 6-foot-something husband fell to the floor in tears. Her body was horrendous. That night when I got her out of the bathtub, Aiden laid in a fetal position and had a blanket over her head, and I thought that was so peculiar. I didn't understand that. Like, is it because you don't know me? Is it because you don't feel safe? What is the problem? I did suspect Aiden had been sexually abused just because of the horrific trauma that she had experienced. Every night, every bath, Aiden covered herself like that. 6 months later, I was called Mimi from the time Aiden came to 6 months later, I was Mimi, and I didn't understand that. That night, 6 months later, I overhear her speaking to her little sister, and Kaya's saying, Mommy, and she said, would you stop calling Mimi Mommy? Why would you do that? Mommy is such a horrible name. And I went, Aiden considered Mommy a bad thing. Mommy's hurt. Mommy's didn't help. Mommy's hurt. That night, as we were getting out of the bathtub, Aiden said, I really need to talk to you. It's very important. So I cleared the kids out, and she said, I just need to know, is it okay for daddies to stick fingers in little girls' tooties? No, it's not. It's not okay. Guys, I'm going to tell you the trauma that affects these kids, if you don't think it affects their parents, whoo, Lord, it does. That was one of the most powerful things that I've had to deal with, is knowing Aiden's abuse. We have found out now through just her disclosures that Aiden was tied to a toilet 20 plus hours a day. She ate a half a pack of ramen noodles uncooked. They weren't cooked. She drank toilet water. And that was one of the things that Valencia was talking about a suitcase. She told me one day, she said, you know the greatest thing that I love about your house? And I said, what? She said, I have a bed and I don't have to, she said, but if I tell you this, you're not going to be mad, right? And I always tell Aiden, there's nothing that happened with them that's going to make Mommy mad at you. It's not going to happen. And she said, I don't have to drink toilet water anymore, Mama. How powerful is that? There's so much abuse that she has been through. And Aiden, there has been challenges. Aiden has sexually acted out. She has sexually acted out on others. She's been violent. She's been angry. But as Valencia said, we're determined to love her through it. There were people that crossed our path that warned me, Stacy, you don't know what you're getting into. When this child gets 16 years old, she could be a perpetrator. You don't know. You don't know what she's going to know. I don't know that. But I do know that so many people failed this child, and I'm not going to fail her. There was a moment with DHR, and I told Valencia I was going to share this. Aiden had began to wipe feces all over our home. There was no there was triggers, but we didn't know what those triggers were. And I'm an RN girl. I don't like poop on my wall. I don't like it. That's not what I like to come home to. And I told the caseworker that. They had an emergency ISP. I called Martha because I thought something was going down. And I walked in, and there were two women that I did not recognize. And their plans were to remove Aiden that day and take her to a therapeutic group home. And I thought I was going to die. I told them, I said, she's doing better. She's making progress, and if you remove her, she's going to think being good's bad. And we're the only people that have been her people. You can't take her from us. So thankfully, it was more than that, wasn't it, Martha? I think I kind of screamed and hollered and stomped and going, no, she's not leaving. But anyway, she stayed. And had she had left, I would have missed my daughter. This picture is something, it's a very powerful picture for me. This picture is the last picture that Aiden's biological mother posted on Facebook. It was posted a year before she was found. I struggled so much with anger. She had 575 friends on her Facebook page. Nobody commented. Nobody called anybody. What does that child look like to you? Does she look broken? Does she look bruised? Nothing was done. And after that day, Aiden disappeared from her Facebook page. It was like Aiden died. It was like she was nowhere to be found. And it came, with DHR, foster parents are limited in what we know. We're not told the whole story. And we would love to be told the whole story. But I've always asked, who is the person who found Aiden? Who is she? I want to talk to her. I want to thank her. 3 days after Aiden's adoption, I had an inbox message. Am I okay on time? I'm okay. I had an inbox message from a woman that I did not know, and I think it's very important that I share this letter with you. And I'm sorry that I'm making people cry, but I just want to share it with you. It says, Stacy, I'm sure that you're just overwhelmed with so much love and messages lately due to your recent adoption, but I wanted to reach out to you personally. Yesterday afternoon, I was sent a screenshot of your post announcing your newest family member, and I couldn't believe my eyes. My heart began to race, and I would love to share my short story about these precious babies with you. It was a hot summer day, and I'd been to my mom's real estate office once that day, but I had to go back again. That was something I rarely did, but God had plans that day. I was getting ready to move into a new house, and there was cleaning to prepare for the move, and it was around 4 p.m. I was exhausted, sweaty, and starving. I swung by a Taco Bell to grab something to eat while I was at my mother's office. As I walked back to the office, this woman, who I knew of from a previous renter, approached me in a very serious voice. She leaned in and said, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you're here. Can you look at my granddaughter?" I rounded the corner and I could not believe what I was seeing. There stood Aiden, looking so sad and clearly in pain. Immediately, I noticed her belly protruding and her eyes fixed on my Taco Bell. I grabbed her up and gave her my food in hopes that she would eat it, but also scared it might hurt her stomach. After she scarfed down the Taco Bell, I ran across the street to Burger King to get something else for her to eat. She was starving, and bless her heart, she didn't look up from the food. At this time, I was a first grade teacher at Arab Middle School, and I was very good friends with a school counselor. I knew I needed to call her as soon as I could to get help for this situation. Knowing deep down that we had to go to the police station or to the hospital, she came to my rescue. I called a friend of mine who was a nurse at the ER, and we took her there. We didn't get the grandmother's full permission, but we didn't care. We had to do something. I did not know the extent of her injuries. At the time, they weren't telling us the situation, but I knew it had to be bad because it was sending nurses and doctors out in the hallway on their knees crying. I can't explain the type of emotion I noticed in that hospital that night, but I truly feel like God was touching people that needed to be touched. Around midnight, they had given us word that the police went to the parents' home with a warrant and they found other children, and they were bringing them to the hospital to be examined. They all appeared okay and didn't need any immediate medical attention. The on-call DHR worker arrived and they were trying to find a plan for these children. At this time in my life, I was a single mid-20-year-old with foster care nowhere in my 10-year plan. Heck, it never even crossed my mind. But God works in mysterious ways, doesn't he? The DH worker decided that the grandmother needed to care for these children for the next couple of days. Now, knowing the grandmother, I knew that she could not take care of these children. Like I said, foster care adoption had never crossed my mind, and we definitely didn't know how the system worked. However, we knew that God had something up his sleeve. After a few short days, DHR discovered the grandmother was not going to work out and the children were placed in foster homes. Those babies and their story have touched my life forever. After that situation, my mom and I felt led to pray and look into foster care. We shortly enrolled in foster care classes in Coleman County, and we've never looked back. At the time, I was single and knew that being a single woman in my 20s trying to foster children was going to be a challenge. But again, God works in mysterious ways. As I was finishing the foster care classes, I met my husband, and now that we are in the process of adopting 2 foster babies from the system. I read another one of your posts where you say very pointedly that your babies have a God story. I can say they sure do, and their story doesn't end here. It's only the beginning of many other God stories, and I love sharing them. So thank you. Thank you for being the light to the precious babies and for shining your light for others to see. You and your family are on a journey that is going to move mountains. It is people like you that inspire the rest of us to put aside our troubles and look at the real picture, to take a step back and say, thank you, God, for putting me in this situation, whether it be bad, good, or ugly. When I read her message, I literally fell to my knees. I called Missy Gambrell, who's the other foster mother who shares our siblings, and as Valencia says, she says she wishes all of the foster parents could function like we do. I'm the aunt to the siblings, she's the aunt to mine, and we go to Disney World together, we vacation, and we see each other on a regular basis. My response back to her, we exchanged phone numbers, and this was my response. I just need to say something before we talk. Afraid texting is the only way I can get this out without losing it. You saved her. You saved her. My beautiful daughter, you saved her. If God had not changed your path that day, she would not have survived. Every doctor that had seen Aiden after that said that she was weeks from death. I am so thankful for you. She is now a beautiful, happy, and loving 6-year-old little girl. She absolutely knows the love of Jesus. And she knows the love of a mommy and a daddy. So if I can't get it out on the phone, I desperately need you to know this. Guys, I share this story with you because there are so many children hurting right now. There's so many. And if you suspect a child is being abused, please reach out to your local authorities. Don't let it be one of those things where you say, yeah, she looks a little bruised. She's okay. Call. Because tomorrow may be the last day for them to be notified. And had it not been for this woman, oh my word, I wouldn't have an Aiden. I wouldn't have a Kaya. That picture is very powerful. When I got that from my friend who made this picture, I opened it up and I immediately started crying, and Aiden walks up to me and she says, so my cartwheels make you emotional? No snot, it doesn't. Your cartwheels don't make me emotional. But and here is the adoption picture of Aiden and Kaya. They were adopted on December 18th, 2017. They were in our home for 878 days. They never left us. They were our babies. I don't know if many of you know this, but within foster care, the criminal case has to end before permanency can happen. The criminal case did end, and I still struggle with this every day. Aiden's stepfather, who is Kaya's biological father, Aiden's stepfather, he pled out. He took a plea deal. He got 5 years. In just a short year, he will be back on the streets. He's 26 years old. He will have more children. Their biological mother's 24 years old. She pled out. She got 5 years. She's released now. She's living at a group home in Birmingham, Alabama, which was exactly 1 mile from my baby's counselor. And how many can guess how many people notified me of that? What do you think? Nobody. Nobody notified. We actually found it as the adoptive mothers. We were Googling just to see, their status, and we found it. That's hard for me to know, and I've struggled with it. However, I have to take faith in knowing that Aiden's going to have a great life and a mommy and a daddy that loves her. And all that other will go away, right? So that is the Johnson story of foster care and adoption. And Valencia, if I have left out anything, please let me know. Okay? All right. Thank you so much. I do want to tell you this, and I told Valencia this when she asked me to come. I've always said that Aiden's story would be Aiden's story to tell. So coming today was extremely difficult for me. And I talked to Aiden, and I told her, I said, they want me to come, and they're wanting to talk about what happened to you and about it's Child Abuse Awareness Month, and what do you think about that? And she said, well, Mommy, if it's going to help people like me and our new baby, foster baby, she said, go, Mama, go share my story, help these babies. So I'm sharing Aiden's story for Aiden to help babies. Thank you.